It's what we don't see is a collective effort among the cops and the political administrations to do anything about it. And they're losing the city. And losing the city as a place for culture, for entertainment, and for general commerce, and as a place to live. Downtowns that work have people that live in them. And ours is devoid of that to any great magnitude. I know the guy that speaks about that, what's his name, Russ?
Not Cornell.
No, he's
Okay.
a white guy who's always speaking about downtown
Okay.
living.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, I sort of, I was sort of championing the whole idea of living in a downtown that I think may have induced people like him to take me up on it.
Mm.
I feel sometimes responsible, as it were, for some of the stuff that I didn't do, perhaps.
Well, you can't we can't blame one man on the whole state of his current city.
Yeah, well, you need good leadership and a vision about what downtown and what the city is about and what needs to happen in the city.
So, first of all, let's back up. Can that be prevented?
Yeah, you can prevent some of that by police presence, by having more police out of the cars and on their feet in the community, talking to the residents. That's it. Downtown after 5 o'clock, after 6 o'clock is a residential community. And what we need are people who understand that in positions of power to affect the outcome down there, aware of that and doing things collectively about it. What we have is this guy says one thing and that somebody else says something else. You got a citizen group that seems devoid of any real contact with the city that's doing something else. And so you've got all these concerns and activities, diverse activities, that means that there's no collective will to do something that's going to be sufficient to overcome what we're seeing.
If you were the police chief today, what would you be doing a day after that video?
Well, the day after that video is when I'm going to try to find out where were my police officers? Why didn't you see some of them when you saw all of that? You can't tell me that an agency as large and as generally as well informed, electronically adept as our police department is, that we couldn't have had a presence down there anticipating what we saw in some of your news coverage about the sort of Wild West attitude among the young people.
Some would say lawlessness.
Well, that's true, but we're devoid of any collective effort to try to get something for our young people to do. So what they do is they go down there and create a sense of, I won't say lawlessness so much as just a Wild West kind of attitude. We'll do what we want to do, with their understanding that nobody else is going to do anything about it. There's no place for them to go. We don't collectively talk about those kinds of places. And the government doesn't seem to have a plan.
I asked police, I just want to see what their answer is. I asked how many arrests they made last night. Let me just see here. To your point of,
Quite frankly, we're not going to arrest our way out of this. Number
Yeah.
one, I flat out tell you that arresting everybody is going to be the solution. That's not going to be the solution. We've got to have a panoply of things, recreational activities, churches involved, neighborhood organizations involved. We've got to have something for our young people to do other than go downtown and create havoc. And what I'm not hearing is any of that in a joint effort. Look, this is what we're going to do. The mayor, police chief, political organizations, churches, fraternal groups, all need to have a plan that we agree on, and let's try to execute something that makes a difference in the lives of the young people who seemingly don't have anything else to do.
Can you expound a bit when you say we can't arrest our way out of it? And just to make clear and help people understand why you say that.
Well, number one is if we decided to arrest everybody we saw in the news coverage that I've watched in the last month or so of stuff in downtown, what you recognize is there's not enough jails to hold as many young people as we saw, and that's not a solution. Nor should we look to incarceration and arrest as the solution to youthful activity. We need to have something constructive for our young people. When I grew up here, I went to teen towns. I went to things at churches. You know, there were lots of things that I walked from my house in the Central West, north of the Central West End on Cabanne Avenue, to as far as Sarah and Page. There was a YMCA there. Churches had teen towns and things that we did.
What is Teen Town?
Teen Town is a place for young people to gather. There was dancing and what have you, but it was usually run by churches. That was in the midst of some of that, although we tended to want to ignore it from the religious community about what our activities were. We could talk about it, listen to it, and some of it filtered through. Well, if they're doing that now to any extent, it's not apparent. And I think you've got good people. Les Sturman down there is a good individual. I know him personally. I think he's trying valiantly. But when guys like him throw up their hands, you lose another portion of the kind of effort. Kind of effort that you could expect to show its face to deal with some of that.
It's been a little over a week now since what I'm about to show you, which when I saw this personally, even as a journalist, I had to take a moment just to take it all in. But you remember this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The pictures are out there, the identities are out there, but no one's
That's an advertisement, guys. That's an advertisement. Look at us. Come on down. And you don't think other young people haven't seen that as an advertisement to go down to some place, downtown preferably, loaded to the,
These are
the hill?
teenagers.
Yeah. And I don't know that any of these are really bad kids. They're just misdirected kids. There's no adult supervision of them. They're walking around with weapons of war in our community, intimidating people who would have them do something more beneficial to all of us. And this is what we see. So either we build an attempt to affect a change in this through a collective activity that develops teen activity forums, listen to the kids about what it is they think they need, as well as what we can afford to give them. If we don't intend to do that, then the only obvious outcome, as far as I can see, is build more jails. I mean, we're at a crossroads in St. Louis. We can decide to change the trajectory of where it is we seem to be going versus what it is we think we can do collectively, meaningfully, and within some type of monetary budget to develop programs and efforts for our young people that amount to something different than what we see happening on our streets and having young people pose with guns.
Does it surprise you that although their faces are out there, I think police have identified them, no one's turned them in?
No, so, in terms of making a criminal case, we're after the fact of that. you can go. I think they ought to try to identify them, try to figure out. Not that they're not attempting that now, but I'm not aware of it. I'm just at some distance, obviously, from what police activity is about in terms of that photograph. But we need to try to identify who they are, try to find some way of talking to them, interviewing them, letting them know that we know who they are and what they're about, and trying to find some other activity other than display of their military gear as an outlet for their journal activity. And when I've seen the few newscasts about youthful activity in our downtown and in other places across the city, downtown is one major aspect of it, is because we've not had what we see occurring now recently in the last few years to the degree we currently see it. But it's an example to all of us, or ought to be, that we've not done enough of the hard work in trying to talk to, lead, and distract our young people from the kind of activity we've seen on television to the kinds of things we think are constructive and will keep them out of danger.
I have a couple questions. Do you think their families should be speaking out, should be saying, hey, police department, this is my son, let me bring him to you so you can talk to him?
Well, you do. We did the gun buyback. When you said that, a thought occurred to me. When we did the gun buyback years ago, I was at a church on the south side, and there was a pretty good rally, mostly of parents who were crying out for some guidance and solutions by the government, the cops and the mayor's office, etc. And when the meeting was over, a lady came up to me and she said, "Oh, I really appreciate what you're trying to do, Chief Harmon." And I said, "Well, can you tell me some things that you could help with?" Kind of conversationally, we were saying these things. She said, "Yeah, but I want you to do something else for me." I said, "What?" And she says, "Well, look out for," and she told me the name of her son. I don't recall who it was, but she said, "Well, you know, he's out here and he carries a gun and he's doing something." I said, "Well, wait a minute. Why don't you have him come see me? Let me have a conversation with him. Tell him not to bring his gun." I don't recall that she ever called me back, but I think I left her with an impression that there was somebody who cared about what it was that was happening to her and her family in a way that we were prepared to try to do something to help her. If nothing else, if I talked to one kid and could dissuade that one kid who might talk to his peers against doing some things that would get them into trouble and other people hurt, and I was successful at that, I'm winning. And that was important to me then, still is.
That each one reach one type of mindset.
Exactly.
I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this. Devil's advocate to something you said earlier about how we can't arrest our way out. Does not holding a young person accountable the first time send a message?
No, of course it does. But we don't have enough facilities, enough cops, and apparently not enough concerned parents to work on a premise that if we locked everybody up who we regarded as being disturbing of the public peace, that would be a solution, maybe a portion of a solution, but not the solution. So we're not going to get to where we need to be, a peaceful, welcoming community that cares for its young people, that provides activities for them. And my sense of this is a public exasperation saying, we're tired of this, we don't care what happens to them. So it's a problem for the cops or for our penal institutions to deal with. And that cannot be the only way we go, because if it is, we've already lost.
What are your thoughts about the state of the city?
Well, I think, the mayor seems to trying to do some things. I don't know, not sitting at her elbow, exactly what she's doing. But when I've talked to her, she seems to be quite concerned. I think she needs to have a cadre of people she meets with very regularly who advise her on avenues of approach to trying to deal with problems with our youth. Because they're the future, after all. It's these young people who are going to inhabit places and jobs and positions of power in a few years, that if we don't do something now, we are in serious trouble in the future. So my hat is off to the mayor, but it also is with a cautionary note that we need to do more. We need to involve more people, and we need to do that now.
My last question. At one point, I think you said, where were the police officers? They'll tell you that we had additional detail working. We had to reassign them as we saw fit. And basically, we did our best. In all honesty, we know there's a police officer shortage. In addition to lower pay in the city, in addition to greater risk of being in harm's way, right?
Well, cops want to go home to their families after their shift, after their watch, like everybody else would want to do. But there is no excuse, not that I know that they specifically have an excuse for not being present when we saw some of that activity this past weekend in downtown. But downtown has become the locus because it is a place where the most attention can be had in terms of broadcasting to the public, a very important need that these young people have. And that is something that they can do that doesn't disrupt the community, have them continue it in a criminal kind of perspective. Some of the stuff that we're concerned about, and the police need to be led. I have hopes for the new chief. Hopefully he is seeing some of this and will be given the political latitude to do what he needs to do to get a handle on this. But, you know, we can't say we want a new guy here with great ideas and don't give him an opportunity to exercise any of those activities, those ideas. Not that that's been the case, because he's been here so short a time till it's not obvious as to what the plan is. But there needs to be a plan, publicly broadcast, talking about what it is we need to do. We need to have a whole lot of people from the community, in government, in the churches, in the schools, singing some of the same tunes. Failure to do that means we continue to holler at each other, walking on our way to oblivion about what it is we need to do with and for our young people, and I don't see that as a solution either.
You said we were at a crossroads earlier. Is there hope?
Oh, there's always hope. I have an abiding belief in the goodness of folks. When I was chief, some of my staff would come in dispirited over a lack of community involvement and input. And I had to always try to be the rallying point around which we developed some ideas about, wait a minute, Reverend so-and-so is not going to help us with this. What else can we do? Mr. So-and-so that lives over there is a voice in the community. What can we get him to say for us, to do for us? Because if this is viewed merely as a police problem, we've already lost. It's more than that. It's a community problem, and it requires all of us to get together on some ideas about what it is we need to do. And what I'm not seeing is any of that that's being spoken about publicly.
This stuff that we just watched,
Mm-hmm.
does it break your heart?
Yeah, I used to always say if we lose downtown, we'll lose the city. And I think the time is nigh. The time is right here for us to collectively understand that. Cities that don't have a downtown don't have a city. They've got something else, a collective place to live, but that's about it for those who can't afford to get out. And we're at that place. We're at a turning point in our history where we've got to collectively come together about what we need to do next. Because all of these young people need guidance. Not all of them need to be arrested. Some of them will or should be arrested. But that we can't arrest ourselves out of this either. We've got to have some collective communication, some great ideas that come forward that we're willing to put together and talk about as a community to get something done that stops us from seeing this kind of activity.